Hello, fellow tiny tractor nuts. This is Eric, and this is pretty much my full video on my restoration of my '69 Ford 140 garden tractor. I got it a couple years ago, and it was obviously in pretty rough shape with a lot of surface rust, and some of the components were not doing too well. So the first thing I had to do was I had to take it apart and power wash off a lot of the grime so that I could see what was going on. And I found out right away that I had a leaky gas tank. They're hard to find, so I had to patch the one I had, and I used JB Weld to do that. Then after that, I just wanted to do a functional test to see whether or not the start and whether or not the transactor was going to function all right. So here I am, just fixing that up. Next, I just wanted to give a slight demonstration into how the tractor works with its hydrostatic drive. The next problem I had to take care of was the steering. It's a rack and pinion steering, and the pinion on the old one was stripped out and had some horrible grooves in it. So I found a donator tractor, and I got a pinion shaft and built a bushing and put it in the bottom mounting plate, and then I was able to put the mounting plate and the bushing in, stick the pinion shaft in, and it was fully engaged with the rack without any slip. And you'll notice that the pinion gear doesn't wiggle inside the bushing. And so that corrected my steering problem. Then the front axle had been broken and then re-welded with a piece of angle iron on the bottom, and it was really nasty looking. So again, the donor tractor was able to supply me with a new front axle. And with the new front axle on and the steering fixed, my steering problems went away. After making sure the tractor itself was running good and steering okay, then I paid some attention to the deck, and this is the lighter of the two magnesium decks available. In the following frames you'll see the heavier magnesium deck, and I was actually able to do some mowing with it, even though that heavier deck had bad All right, well, now that I knew that the tractor was going to work, one of the couple things I did was I noticed a slight knock in the engine, so I took the engine off and sent it off to a place to have it rebuilt. And the guy's name is Jason Overly. Anyway, I took the tractor apart and sandblasted it, and then my buddy helped me spray paint it. Here he is spraying on an epoxy primer over the bare metal. And once the tractor was primed, and we had it in the paint shop, and it was getting all dry,
it didn't drip,
we were able to pay attention
it didn't
to some
drip.
of the other things.
So I just pull this off.
Yeah.
Once the epoxy primer was dry, then we painted it the blue. And I also had gone after some of the other parts and painted them with the light gray, the Ford light gray, and then was able to start reassembling the tractor. And I got it down to where I had it all put together, except I didn't have an engine and I didn't have some of the other parts like the seat cushion. So I had to wait for those. And in the meantime, I ordered a decal kit for it from Maple Hunter Decals. And then Jason was working on the engine, and he had torn it apart and repainted everything, and it was really, really nice job. And the engine came out great, and it ran really, really well. So then I went and picked the engine up from Jason and put it in the trunk, drove it to Michigan, and pulled it out of the trunk with a engine hoist, and then took it inside and got ready to put the tractor together. So here the tractor is coming back together. The engine's all mounted into it, and I was able to put the front grille back on and put some things in like the battery box cover and start to put the decals on the seat, which was finally dry, and also the battery box cover was dry. That little electric light on the back there was priced out as much as $40, but I picked it up at a hardware store for just $3. Well, she's about 95% put back together. She the hood turned out beautiful, and I'm redoing the headlights. I tried to put a decal on it, and that it's a thin foil decal, and I mean really thin. And so as soon as I started to peel off the top part, it ripped the foil and ruined the decal. So I'm gonna paint it like I did my 120. But I put a coat of gray on it last night, and it's still it's not good enough to put tape on yet. So and the same thing with the hood. I'm not gonna put the decals on until the paint is really hardened up, because if you try to reset the decal for some reason, if it didn't go on straight the very first shot, you try to lift it off again, you'll pull the paint. So you have to have the paint on nice and hard before you put a decal on. These decals went on because that paint's like a month old, so I was able to get those on. We got the lights. The lights are hooked up, and but I don't have the headlights in the front, obviously, because I'm not done putting that back together. But it's all wired up, and all I have to do is screw them in, plug them in. So the seat, I got that from Josh Devon, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's got the original piping, and it's got this original kind of like ribbing that's in the pattern that's in the seat. And so it worked out real well. And the plywood base came pre-drilled and had steel, you know, lock nuts inside the plywood. So all I had to do was just screw it on. It just went right on where it was supposed to. Same thing with the back. The back of the seat had metal nuts inside it. So, and they lined up with the holes, and so all I had to do was put a couple of bolts in, and the seat was mounted. So I mean, that was, Josh puts together really nice parts. You can see how old this tractor is. You know, after I blasted it and painted it, you can see the rust that was on this thing. I mean, it was everywhere. The rust was really bad on this tractor, and but sandblasted and painted. You can even see it, like in the seat here, how rusted underneath the paint that was. The battery box, I had to get a new battery box because the old one was too pitted. And I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with the dash tin yet. I've got a decal for it, but I have a feeling it's not going to go on. So I'm probably going to have to pull that dash tin off and paint it or something. And then, of course, it's always hard to find replacement caps, hubcaps that, you know, that are clear. They sit out in the sun and they turn yellow like that. And then also Josh had these cool little gas gauge gas caps for sale. I wish this one was a little bit longer in the tank, but that's all right. It'll just indicate E before I run out. And then putting the motor in wasn't too bad. The wiring was difficult. You know, I mean, I took photographs of it, and it still didn't help me. When I went to put it back together, for some reason, wires, the way it was wired before, when I had it, things didn't work right. But now, this is hot wired, and you can see that the electric lift works great. And you can, the light bulb is burned out. I got the bulbs back in Pennsylvania. I have them here with me, but you can hear the clutch is working. And I put one of these little two-prong, you know, I put those in, little two-prong things. Oh, and I use these for my electrical connections. This was, I got this off of Amazon, and these work really, really good. I mean, You clip the wires off, you stick them in there, and you hit them with one of these lighters, and they snug right down onto the wire, and then that little piece of solder in the middle is a low temperature solder. And here, I'll see if I can pull one out for you. And so you end up with this. It's really tight on there. These are very hard, and that low temperature solder melts and gets into the wires in the middle. And so I was really happy with how those turned out. I'd seen them on, I don't remember where I'd seen them, but I went and bought them off of Amazon, and I think this whole box cost me, I don't know, $15 or something like that. It was really, really reasonable. And you talk about a great way to fix your wiring, to make your wiring come back together right. That was it, man. That was it. The front axle is a replacement. I got that. The one that was on here when I got the tractor had been broken right here. And then they had welded it back together and put a piece of angle iron on the bottom, and it was ugly, uglier than hell. And plus it wasn't square, so the wheels were towed out. And so I bought a Jake 80 for $60, and then swapped the axles, the front axle, and then resold the Jake 80 for $60. So I got a free new axle for it. And she's tight. The steering was all goobered up on this. You can't see it, so I'm not going to try and get down in there for it. But I'll post that at a different time. But there's a gear. Here, you can see it here. See, there's that gear. There's a gear that's attached that drives a rack. Okay, and the gear was wowed out and had lost its bottom pin. And when I got the tractor, they had used electrical wire and wrapped it around that up and down the vertical shaft and pulled it in an attempt to pull the gear back into the rack. And it was a mess. So when I got that $60 Jake, I pulled the steering shaft was good. The steering shaft here is out of the Jake. And I got a new bushing made. You know, I found a base and I put a new bushing in it, and so that's tight. And now with this new front end, I mean, she is tight steering, like brand new. So I mean, there's hardly any play at all between where the wheel moves as soon as you move the. Anyway, so I don't know why my video stopped for a second, but anyway, so you can see just how rusted this thing was when I got it. But anyway, there's the headlights and the little letters that go into the headlight unit. I'll do those when I get that fixed up. The tires were free. I got a full set of tires, all matching tread, for free from a lawnmower shop where they had taken in a lawnmower and replaced the tires, and these were left over. They hold it. I put tubes in everything. That hitch came off of another donor tractor I found, and it had this really nice sleeve hitch on it. I got the same hitch on my 120, and it's got this. I'll show it to you. There's this bar right here. And it's like an S bar, and it's got this pin on one end and just a hole on the other. And when you put it on, it goes down in here like this, and it goes down below. You know, it goes down from underneath. It goes over the axle like that, and then comes up and hooks into the bottom of that of the lift arm. Okay, And then back here, you take this idler pin out and you slip this into there, right there, like that, with a washer. Take this and you slip it into. You take this idler arm out and you put this in here with a washer and a hitch pin, and then that makes your lift go up and down. Okay, and it's this groove is so that there's a float on it. And I have all kinds of attached plows and harrows and rakes and all kinds of stuff, but you can see where that goes up and then hooks to your lift arm. Anyway, that works real good. I like this hitch, and I don't know what it is. Every time I set down a part, I have to go hunt for it again. Then I have two front hitches. I have this one, which goes for the snowblower. It goes in here like this, and then that holds the snowblower up. And then there's another one, like a fork, that there's a fork type thing that goes for the plow, for the snow plow. So the pulley here, this pulley here, is the PTO pulley, and the belt either goes down to a deck or it goes forward to the snowblower. And anyway, and this, of course, this has got the 14 horse engine in it, so it comes with this really nice muffler. It's very quiet, very easy on the ears. Okay, dipstick, coil, spaghetti of wires, cleaner, gas tank. I had a couple leaks on the gas tank, so I used JB Weld. This one was popped when I just put it on. So, but that JB Weld works really, really good, and it's. Some people say it's not good for gasoline, but I haven't had any trouble, and I've heard other guys that have used it, and they haven't had any trouble. And of course, this thing has a starter, electric starter, and then an internal stator, alternator type thing, which then feeds electricity. I don't know if you can see it in there. There it is, to the rectifier. And the rectifier turns it into 12 volt and sends it back up front. And it reads on here. If I turn this on, you can see it normally goes to a negative charge, because that's feeding the ignition. And I think now the new battery box. I got that battery box from Josh Devon also. It comes with the vertical rods, a wood base plate, and a top wood. There's a wood base plate on the top to insulate the terminals. Okay, and that works really, really nice. And then of course I was able to put my decal on it easily because it's a smooth surface. And then, on these hydrostatics, if you turn it this way, it bypasses the fluid so that it doesn't drive the motor, the hydraulic motor part of the hydrostatic drive. If you turn it this way, then it drives, and you can't hand push it. But if you push it this way, now you can push the tractor, okay? So, and then of course this thing has a little, this was all rusted up and I couldn't operate it, but has a little catch in there that keeps it from going too far out of neutral. Then you push it down and you go full forward, or you push it back and go full aft. But it lifts up and then gets caught inside of a neutral position. So anyway, This one's got everything. This has got the electric PTO, the lights, the tail light, the electric lift, and the hydrostatic drive. Now my 120 is all gear. It's a gear shifter, a manual PTO, and then it's got the big Armstrong lever over here for the lift. And although it has lights, but doesn't have a tail light. But so that's why I bought this tractor and did the project, because now I've got both ends of the spectrum. I've got the simple basic machine, and now I've got this high-tech one. I think this one was probably a 69. I'm saying it's about a 69. My 120 is probably around a 68 or 67. I don't think it's probably more a 68. Anyway, so there it is. I got to go to work in half an hour. I got to get ready. So so I got to put all this stuff away, clean up all this mess, because it's my buddy's shop. He just lets me use everything that I wanted here, so it's pretty nice. So, but I got to leave everything clean, or at least put it back where he left it, so he can find it. So again, once again, thanks for listening to my video. I'm sorry it's so long, but I hope you enjoyed it. You guys all have a nice day, and have fun with your tractors. Bye-bye.